First, though, our top story this half an hour, and that is national security in focus. Outgoing CIA Director John Brennan giving President-elect Donald Trump advice on being the commander-in-chief, but also warning him about what and how he says.
Well, there are many dangers. I think the world is watching now what Mr. Trump says and listening very carefully. If he doesn't have confidence in the intelligence community, what signal does that send to our partners and allies as well as our adversaries? So I think Mr. Trump has to be very disciplined in terms of what it is that he says publicly. He is going to be, in a few days' time, the most powerful person in the world in terms of sitting on top of the United States government. And I think he has to recognize that his words do have impact, and they can have very positive impact, or they can be undercutting of our national security.
And with that, Trump slammed Brennan on Twitter. He responded to a Fox News headline saying, at Fox News, outgoing CIA Chief John Brennan blasts President-elect Trump on Russia threat, does not fully understand. So Trump says, oh, really? Couldn't do much worse. Just look at Syria, red line, Crimea, Ukraine, and the buildup of Russian nukes. Not good. Was this the leaker of fake news? We want to bring in Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer right now. Lieutenant Colonel, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
What do you make of this controversy, and do you think John Brennan was, in fact, the one who highlighted that internet report last week?
No doubt. I've said the same thing on your show. I think he was the original leaker of the Washington Post and New York Times information as well, the so-called anonymous source. And Mr. Trump is completely correct here. John Brennan is a criminal. If I were John Brennan right now, I would be looking for a good criminal defense attorney to defend me in the investigation that should come after the inauguration, because clearly Brennan is taking sides. Let's remember, Maria, we've gone through this transition of power before. I don't remember George Tenet lecturing George W. Bush coming out of the Clinton administration about things he should be doing. So very clearly, Brennan is a partisan. He's taken a side here. And let me be clear on the criticism, because I think I understand what Mr. Trump's trying to say. Mr. Trump does not doubt the bravery or capability of line intelligence officers or those analysts doing the hard work. It is that the political appointees at the upper level, like Jim Clapper, like John Brennan, who are completely corrupt, who are completely in the political system and now acting as partisans, not as arbiters of the truth. It's completely insane.
So you just said John Brennan is a criminal?
I think John Brennan has taken is a criminal by the fact he has done things to leak information illegally. Under Title 18, if you leak classified information, that becomes a criminal issue. So I do believe at this point in time, John Brennan should be figuring out, because by the way, Murray, this is going to be pretty easy to trace. NSA captures all the different phone calls from that agency, and his phone numbers can be looked up. So I think that's where we're going. We should go with this.
Wow. Colonel Shaffer, Harlan Hill here. So if I'm understanding this correctly, the media is slandering Donald Trump with the aid of the CIA.
Right.
What recourse does Trump have once he's in office?
You're right. That's incredible.
Well, I think the two things. First is just tell the truth. Put it out there. As people have looked, at that insane MI6 former agent report. It's like, are you kidding me? And it's often taken out of context. It's very salacious. Counter that. Just say it's not true. Secondly, I think Mike Pompeo is going to have to go in there. He just is going through his confirmations right now to be the next director of CIA. He's got to clean house. I mean, completely clean house. We're not talking about just John Brennan. I've talked to a former director of CIA I'm very close to friends with. John Brennan has corrupted that whole agency. And let's remember, Mr. Trump is correct about everything they've missed. They missed ISIS. They missed the Russian buildup of nuclear weapons. They've missed the North Koreans being able to create hydrogen bombs. All this has been missed under John Brennan's watch. So not only do you have this partisan slant, they're more of a partisan than they are intelligence officers, you have intelligence failure after intelligence failure, serial failure. So you've got to do something to fix that. Otherwise, there will be nobody looking out for the interests of the United States in the next administration.
Quickly, Colonel, but this isn't a case of John Brennan going rogue, right? I mean, this is a case of it's got to be coming down from the administration, because why would John Brennan do this all of a sudden?
John Brennan, I think, is acting as if he's protected, and I think President Obama is allowing him to do everything he's doing. And again, if you look at everything else going on the horizon, everything else, you see the protests coming here next week in Washington, you see this anti-legitimacy effort to undermine Trump's presidency, and you see the intelligence community now acting in unison. This is what we call an information operation. The very thing that they're accusing the Russians of doing, they are doing.
Well,
so that's why we have to take this very seriously.
Yeah, and let me ask you about Oman, because now Oman Iran says that it will accept Gitmo inmates. So they're accepting 10 Guantanamo Bay inmates at the request of the United States. This is part of the 19 inmates that the Obama administration wants to resettle before the end of his term. So, Colonel Schaefer, what's your take on these? I mean, he continues to let Gitmo fighters out so that he can keep to this promise of closing Gitmo. Where are they going? They're going back to the fight.
They are going back to the fight. Two quick things. These are the worst of the worst. These are the folks that the Pentagon has said repeatedly are not ready for prime time to be released. They will go back and fight, as you point out, Maria. Secondly, this is completely disrespectful to President-elect Trump. President-elect Trump has made it very clear he plans on keeping Guantanamo open. President Obama promised a quote-unquote smooth transition. This is not a smooth transition. This is a poke in the eye. And I think we all have to be concerned about exactly what you said. These guys are going back. They're going to be considered rock stars because they've survived a time in Guantanamo, and there's nothing good coming out of it. This is more of a recruiting poster for ISIS than anything Trump has said or did over the time he's been running for president.
Colonel, just really quickly, but when once Donald Trump is inaugurated as our next president on Friday, don't you think he needs to dial back the criticism of the intelligence community? Because again, when you're the commander-in-chief, you own what they do.
Right. Oh, no doubt. I mean, once you're responsible, you better be careful about what you say about those working for you, no doubt. I think he will. I think the safe bet is this. Once Mike Pompeo rolls in there, Jim Mattis rolls into the Pentagon, you're going to see a sea change of everything going on. I think Mr. Trump, when Mr. Trump's managers are in there, I think you're going to see things change, and much for the better.
Well, we should point out, he was dismissing the intelligence reports, and then in the news conference last week, he did admit that the Russians hacked the DNC. He came out and admitted that.
Yeah.
So
did they try to hack the RNC too, but they couldn't get through?
Yeah, they absolutely did.
Right.
Okay, so but he denied it for a long time, or dismissed it rather, and then finally admitted it last week.
They hacked an email account. And I believe that there's other folks who went in with the Russians. This ATP 2829, that's available. You could go find it and do a hack. So I think the Russians did hack the DNC. I think the FBI helped the RNC and helped protect them. There's no doubt about that. The question becomes, did they quote unquote hack the election, which is what the left keeps saying? No
evidence.
No machines were hacked.
If he's the original, by the way, back to this, John Brennan is a criminal.
Right.
If he's the original leaker, I mean, is John McCain involved?
Everything I've read indicates that John McCain took a very strong and active role behind the scenes. I don't know if John McCain did or not, but I'm telling you, look, Maria, for someone like the New York Times or Washington Post to accept a quote-unquote anonymous source, it has to be at the Brennan level. I mean, come on, we all know how this business works.
Right.
To have something taken at that level has to be someone at that level.
Colonel, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Great. Hey,
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer there. Coming up, back to the drawing board, the Los Angeles Chargers decide to rethink their logo after fans booed their first attempt. What do you think about that logo? Send us a tweet, let us know. And a better way to buy business travel, a new company that is working to save your small business hundreds and hundreds of dollars. We're going to get into it next. Back in a minute.